Hello everyone, this is my game Castalia. I'm developing this game by myself. It is a 2D open world MMORPG. As you can see here, we have this kind of lobby interface. Let me just move this out of the way. Shards on the left hand side roughly correspond to servers, but unlike most video games, well not most, but unlike some, characters are not locked to servers. They can freely traverse between shards or servers, something akin to like RuneScape, for instance. So there's no locking of any kind. In other games, they call these channels, maybe. As you can see, we have a chat in the lobby screen. Just right. We have our characters on the right here, and we can just join. This center part is a placeholder for the future. So we join in, and this is the game proper. Let me just make this a bit more transparent. So this is Castalia. As you can see, like I said, 2D open world. So it's not a tab target game, it's action based. What I mean by that is your mouse plays an important role than in a typical tab target game. Also, unlike MapleStory, where you have directional fire at wherever your character's facing through the keyboard, the mouse is all important. As you can see, the character's kind of moving towards the mouse. And you can fire the bow wherever the mouse goes. So we have some basic animations. All these animations are not fun or anything like that. These are just kind of placeholders until I get a proper artist in. So we have some jumping. We have some slope surfaces. We have what I call drop down. We have pass through. So even though this surface I'm colliding with this, well, we have death too. Sorry, let me go back to that. So even though we have damn chicken. Alright, we'll go back to that. So we always have these NPCs and we can hurt them. And we get some XP. See it down the bottom here. Character's level 5. We have a looting system. Back to this. So we can drop down and we can pass through it. So we have directional collision as well. That's what I call it. We have vertical movement. So then gravity is disabled while we're climbing this climbable, so to speak. We have layering, so Z-index rendering. As you can see, that platform is going behind the tree, so to speak. So in a sense, it's not true 2D. It's more akin to a 2.5D game. And that happens with the character as well. So the character will inherit that. So it looks like I am behind the tree. But if I drop off, I'm now in front of the tree. We have a day-night cycle that's occurring in the background. I will just set this back to day, however. And yeah, so we have some combat. We have our chat, we have our mini-map on the bottom right. We have our character pane, an inventory, a skill tree. The skill tree is work in progress. So I'll just get out of the way here. But the inventory and the character pane are pretty feature complete for the most part. So the inventory is stock standard. So we have deleting items, we can move them around, rearrange them. Obviously this is all saved server side. We have currency system. Just close this for now. We have character equipping. As you see, my character has no arms, but as you can see, as soon as I took the weapons off, the bow in game disappeared. So we have somewhat the beginnings of a sprite rendering system, and this will obviously apply to many other pieces of gear over time. And yep, and then we have, this is the beginning of the skill tree. So as you can see, it'll be a graph based system with nodes, similar to something like Path of Exile. We have seamless interfacing. So I'm literally disconnecting from the server and reconnecting. One of the goals actually for this project is no loading screens. I truly believe that's possible. especially in a 2D game where the assets are obviously much smaller in size. But you know, shaders take a big part of a game's compilation process. Anyone who played Path of Exile 2 knows shader pre-compilation can take minutes in some cases. But that is definitely one of the goals, no loading screens, just to keep the seamlessness as much as possible. So when I say open world, what does that actually mean? Well, if you think of something like MapleStory, you have these zones, they call them, and to traverse between these zones, you go through somewhat of a portal, and that portal will take you on the loading screen. Behind the scenes, that's loading assets, that's moving your position in the world, it's doing all sorts of stuff, and then you enter another zone. This game will have no zones. There will be things like portals and things like that for rapid movement, but there will be no notion of a zone. So the game is designed with this in mind. So if I just turn gravity off and go flying, you'll see me go into a different kind of biome, a different background. So we can do this seamlessly as you're walking through the zones. So think of like Terraria. Terraria does this kind of thing, right? So if you move between a desert and the forest biome in Terraria, the scenery will change around you. It'll kind of fade in, fade out. That will be in Castalia too. Now, there's not actually that much content you can see here. And that's because most of the time is gone into developing the server, which is obviously running behind the scenes, but also something which you will probably have not seen before in game development generally. You see it in things like, you know, the game engines, the public mass market game engines, but in custom game engines, which this is using C# for the front end and Rust for the back end, you won't see this kind of stuff. So this is roughly what you call tooling, right? So we can actually see in this viewport here, this is the world we're just looking at in game mode, except now we're looking in editor mode, so to speak. So I can just toggle between that straight away. Now, what this lets you do is it lets you create content, update content, remove content, etc., etc., as fast as you can click, basically. Now, why is this a concern? Well, MMORPGs live and die by the rate at which you produce content and the rate at which the player or player base consumes content. And the player base will always consume content faster than you'll be able to create content. This is why we see things in like World of Warcraft where we time gate content. You literally cannot access things they've developed until say week 2, 3, or 4, because otherwise you will consume it too fast, people will get bored, and their monthly subscription will expire. That's literally why they do it. They do not have the ability to develop content, enough content to keep you around. This is why we see in other games like Path of Exile, where they would spend 3-4 months developing a league. People will play that league, most of the people, for 3-4 weeks. They'll then drop off. Path of Exile, 3-4 months later, will come back, say, hey, we've got a new league. People start again. The rate at which you develop content is always going to be slower. However, that gap, you can make that gap small as possible. So even though players will consume content as fast as you are, faster than you're developing it, you can make that difference as small as possible. And you can do things through tooling. So just delete this one. So we can see a few things here. We can obviously see all the collision geometry, that we're walking on. This is a tile-based approach. So the collision geometry is actually not associated with the things you're seeing rendered. There are some edge cases, like this climbable here, where we can see this climbable is just a access align bounding box. We can also see that there is a tile map associated with it. This lets the rope kind of sway, right? Because we don't want to deform the collision box through the wind. We want to deform the actual rope, the rope sprite itself. But roughly speaking, collision geometry is separated from the actual what's rendered. This does make development a bit slower, but it keeps it much simpler and less complex. This is why you can see me running and it looks like thin air, but actually there's a collision box here. Now, I just mentioned some tools to make development faster. How is that done? Okay, let me delete that. See, there's no entities. Let me delete that one. We have no entities whatsoever, no chickens running around. Just gonna hop on this. If I press Control Z to bring him back and replicate him, he comes back instantly, right? And he starts pathing around and doing what he does. Now you can see on the right here, we're like looking into what this chicken is. It has a name, has a collision box, has animation, and so on and so forth. It then has a movement system around him. We can see that this is a waypoint based system. So you can see we have these little nodes here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he'll roughly path along these nodes. Not in a train tracks kind of way, because there are some other options to add some randomness to it. And he'll automatically detect jumping. So at this point here, where there's a ledge, we do a ray cast. And so you can see on the chicken here, this kind of green arc, this is his jump detection. So once he will use that to detect if he can jump onto something or below something, things like that. Now, why this makes development simpler is obviously we can visualize it. We can see it instantly in the game. We don't need to recompile code. We don't need to reboot servers or anything like that. We can see how it changes in real time. We can also do something like this. Just get it out of there. I've just created another chicken. I save it. It's not on the server yet. I need to replicate it. And now we have another chicken on the server. And he has the exact same pathing system because all the components copied over. But we can change that. We can just say, okay, we want a different chicken. So we're going to go to these. We're going to delete these waypoints. I have to fix that. Save. Now this chicken is just going to stand still. We've just deleted all his waypoints. What if we add some? We go into edit mode and we can say, well, let's just have him walk along here. We save. He's going to start walking. Now, what was interesting is he jumped up there, right? I did these waypoints simply along this path, but he's jumping along as he goes, right? And that's because, where is it? Sorry. We have this behavior and we have this jump probe. So if I disable this, he will no longer probe for jumps and he'll follow that kind of straightforward path we set. So these are easily configurable and you see it real time live. Everyone sees it. Obviously, if there was another developer connected, they would see these changes real time. It's synced between developers, so you can have more collaborative development too. It's all synced live. And then, that's a more advanced thing, but, something simpler is you can see this platform I'm standing on here, which it corresponds to, let me just get out of that mode, corresponds to this. If I just move this away, save, now my character falls through it. It's actually not something that you can collide with. So I'm going to undo that, save, and now we're back, right? Every entity in the world that is shared between players, so server synchronized, the aim is for it to be able to see updates for it real time in the editor without any compilation. So I'm just going to go back to the lobby. We can see over some basic menus, a bit more boring stuff. Again, back into the world. Just going to shoot. So we don't have many abilities developed yet, but we've got all the tool tips, all that kind of nice UI you expect from MMO. We have a global cooldown system, so you can see when I left click to use this ability, this ability here is not on the global cooldown, so it won't go on cooldown. See? But the opposite isn't true. So this one here, the left click attack, is on the global cooldown. So when I right click, you'll see this one go on the cooldown. Sorry, you won't see it. So we have a global cooldown system. We have ability cooldowns, things like that. This is something I'm working on right now, actually. If we go back to this, you can see this tree. So this tree, again, even though it's a back-end kind of system, it is a live system. So we can see this stat, piercing potency, value 10, and we can see the tooltip is generated from that. I can change this to, before I do that though, we can see it in the actual interface here. Piercing potency is 10, 10, and my damage is roughly 29. So I'm going to double this value. I'm going to save it. We'll go back. See, it's been updated to 20, 20. I'm going to go attack this guy again. Whoopsie. You can see the damage has been scaled up. Everything is live. This makes content development at least an order of magnitude easier, which is in an effort to resolve that problem I mentioned earlier. I think I've spoken enough about the basic systems and the overall goal of this game. This will be the end of the video this time. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.